The misuse or inability to use an email account has plagued the Democratic Party for quite some time now, and coming to a head in Philadelphia, the largest city here in the Commonwealth, at the Democratic Convention, the dawn of the Democratic Convention, I could find and think of no better place for this controversy to grow. If anyone knows about email controversies, it's us. We're experienced. We know it. We've done it before. We did it before it was cool. In the realm of political poor email management, Pennsylvania is the hipster of the group, without a doubt. Just look at the Supreme Court and all of the pornography emails being sent back and forth. I wonder if Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairman, soon to be the non-chairman of the DNC, I wonder if she'll reach out to Kathleen Kane for some advice. You know, our Attorney General Kathleen Kane, who came down on the emails of the Supreme Court members. Maybe she's got some ideas on how the Democrats could thwart any future email controversies. I am Brian Crawford. I am your voice of reason among three rivers of chaos here at Millvale Studios. Beautiful Millvale Studios. We just got an organ. It's a funny story. I was just sitting on Facebook and I see this message pop up from Brian McQuaid, a great local musician. He's looking to join the network at some point, but Brian posted that he had this organ and he's been trying to get rid of it, and not like an organ in your body, an organ that you play. So he wants to get rid of this organ, and he cannot find anybody to take it. No one wants this organ. Absolutely no one. I don't know why. It's a beautiful organ, and he was going to put it on the curb if nobody took the organ, and I'm just thinking, there's absolutely no way I could let something so beautiful go to the curb and get destroyed. So here we have an organ now at the Millvale Studios. Oh, there's all sorts of good, juicy stuff coming up at the Democratic National Convention, National Committee Convention in Philadelphia. There's already protests, already rallies, and they apparently, according to, I believe it was CBS, apparently these protests are larger than all of the protests and rallies held at the Republican convention just a few days ago in Cleveland, just this past last week. And it's all about this email controversy where top Democrat elites, such as Debbie Wasserman Schultz, allegedly sent emails back and forth in an attempt to thwart Bernie Sanders. Bernie has said throughout the entire campaign that he felt that he was being unfairly treated by the party leadership, and that he felt that they had it in the bag for Hillary and that they were doing whatever they could to ensure a Clinton victory, which really still stumps me because Sanders really polled much better than Hillary against every Republican, including Donald Trump, who is the Republican nominee now. But it's interesting. It reminds me of a story, a personal account of this same type of cronyism that I experienced right across the county lines in Westmoreland County. So it does happen here. It happens on the local level. Everyone thinks that politics on a local level is somehow... I had this discussion with a guy the other day who's ran for office before. He's involved in the Republican Party, and he tried to tell me that there isn't any type of backlash on the media and that the media can get away with everything, but in politics they've got someone looking over your shoulder. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? And I rattled off, Hillary Clinton and just a whole list of other politicians, and he goes, well, yeah, you make a good point, but on the local level. And I said, do you want to rethink that? And I mentioned Tom Murphy out in Westmoreland County, who is accused of being extremely fraudulent with county finances and owing taxes. And I mentioned a representative out that way who used to bully people and intimidate people to try to get what he wanted. And I mentioned this specific case, which we're going to get back to around just after 10:40, a personal account. It's a really fascinating story, I think, of a man who fought the system, and this time he won. So stay tuned for that. But up next, we've got Matt Gajtka with your sports update here on the River's Edge Radio Network.
Hey, this is Matt Gajtka, your host of Gajk's Got Game, 8 a.m. every Friday here on the River's Edge. I'll take a peek behind the sports media curtain, zoom out for the big picture, and as always, obsess over the details of the sports, teams, and players we love or love to hate. It's Gajk's Got Game every Friday at 8 a.m. on the River's Edge.
Speaking of Matt Gajtka and Gajk's Got Game, we have Matt over the phone now, and I want to remind you that you can become part of the music scene by subscribing to us on Patreon. You could become our patron. Patreon's a great service where you can support local music here at riversedgepgh.com, and if you give us $5 a month, you can get a big shot, high-energy celebrity like Matt Gajtka to mention your name on air. Matt, how are you? I think we just lost up. He's calling right now. Matt, I just gave you this this great promo, and then your phone died. Hello, Matt. We're trying to get Matt Gajtka. Hello, there we go. Matt, how are you?
Hey, yeah, sorry about that. We have tunnels in Pittsburgh, as it turns out, and they kill
happens.
cell phone reception.
They're working on that, apparently. They're trying to fix that.
Is that right?
Yeah, they used to actually not lose your signal. It was something that I believe CMU did. And now they're talking about bringing in some major providers to put lines in to allow you to drive through the tunnel once again, unimpeded.
CMU, man, the smart people saving
right.
us again.
They're crazy. So, yeah, I just gave you this big promo. I was saying, Matt Gajtka is a big shot celebrity. If you donate on Patreon, you can actually allow your name to come across your lips. So, how are you doing?
I am outstanding. It's an off day for the Pirates, so
you're relaxing.
Those days are much welcomed. Even though it's weird now, I'm going to have 3 off days in the next 8, and then I'm not going to cover the series in Atlanta next week. So I'll have some time. It's just the ebb and flow of the baseball season, and well, it's always great to talk to you, though. I'll carve out time no matter what's going on.
Appreciate it. What is going on in the sports world this week?
Well, this week, if you want to look just beyond the scope of Pittsburgh sports, which I like to do very often, the Olympic calendar has constricted the golf schedule, and so the PGA Championship will occur in July. I think it's the first time in the modern era. So all 4 of the golf majors have been jammed into about a 3-month span here, and so they'll roll into that. And golf, I think, sometimes goes in and out of the radar or in and out of people's minds here in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh native Steve Wheatcroft came up just short of winning his first PGA Tour event in Canada yesterday. So he kind of collapsed the last 3 holes, but there was some local interest in terms of that. And, otherwise, Brian, on the sports calendar, there's not much besides baseball right now. The Pirates will remain home. They'll play the Mariners in a 2-game interleague series at PNC Park Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, I'm sure many people in the area have this date circled on their calendar. Steelers training camp opens up in Latrobe, so football season is just about 72 hours away, if you want to look at it that way.
Do you feel like there's a lack of buzz over Steeler training camp over the years? I feel like when I was younger, that was just such a huge event. Every Giant Eagle you walked into was playing the Steelers theme song and things like that. and now, it's still a big event, but I feel like it's just not as all-encompassing as it was as a child. And maybe that's just the perspective of somebody who's grown, but is that something you've noticed?
I don't know, because, Brian, I grew up in Weirton, West Virginia, so we didn't have we didn't have any Giant Eagles, first of all.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a ton of, I guess, grassroots hype for that stuff. I was always just, watching the Pittsburgh TV stations and listening to the Pittsburgh radio stations for that sort of thing. So I feel like my perspective is kind of skewed. But I also think the Steelers used to have a little bit more of an all-encompassing grip on the Pittsburgh sports market, if you will, and that has certainly changed. You see the Penguins being so popular. I don't think that they have surpassed the Steelers in terms of overall interest, and especially the older demographic, your baby boomers, maybe even the older portions of Generation X, I believe they're still football first and foremost for the most part. I don't want to paint with a broad brush too much. But then you look at the younger generations, the 20s, the 30s, into the 40s, and the teens as well. They can spend money too, and
Yeah.
they count in the ratings. But that's where I see hockey getting a big foothold. And I've seen this on the baseball beat, Brian. I still feel like people are buzzing over the Stanley Cup. It's been about a month. It's been more than a month, in fact, since the Penguins won it. And still, it's consuming most of the oxygen in Pittsburgh sports. We see it on our website at dkpittsburghsports.com. And I think the Pirates have seen a little bit of that effect at PNC Park. Attendance kind of flat, and especially those nights when the Penguins were playing, it was it really felt like a complete like side B, side show, if you want to put it that way.
Do you think in our lifetime we will see a day where, not nationwide, obviously the Steelers have such a nationwide and worldwide presence, but do you think we will see a day when the Steelers are not the dominant team here within the Steel City, within the Three Rivers?
I think it's possible. Depends on how long you're planning on living.
Yeah.
There's a good chance you and I see, into our 80s and 90s with advances in health and all that. So I wouldn't say it's out of the picture. Football, I guess, if you look at it from a national perspective, if you look at it from a worldwide perspective, which you did there, Brian, and I think that's very appropriate, it's an easy game to track. You just watch one game a week. It's 3 hours. It's kind of if you're out of town and you're from Pittsburgh or you're a Steelers fan, it's a way to get together with your friends and people that you feel close to for that time span. And it's not an everyday thing like baseball. It's not an every other day thing like hockey. It's a little bit easier to get into whether you are a casual or a passionate fan. And I think hardcore fans, the Penguins are right there with the Steelers. But casual fans, it's still football by a long shot, I believe. And I'm not sure that's ever going to change just because of the nature and the rhythms of the two sports.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at the analytics, or not the analytics, but the statistics, and I see your point. I think the casual fan, you're probably right, but looking at the diehard fan, there was a statewide poll that was done a few years ago, and they polled everybody in the state, and among younger people, millennials, the Penguins actually fared much better than any other team in the Commonwealth, including the Steelers, including the Flyers, and including all of the Philly teams. And it was basically in that younger demographic, and it just seems like the Penguins seem to own that. It's just interesting to see how they're able to build and foster and make that group continue to grow and support the team. And
I don't want to give too much credit to any one entity, but even though the Penguins have had great players, and those players were young and still remain in their 20s, so I think that's relatable to the younger generation.
Sure.
But the Penguins organization has done well in marketing to youth. There's a certain freshness to their outreach, whether it be social media or other traditional forms. Building deck hockey rinks around the region, I think that's big too. You see the Penguins brand everywhere, and that's more of the trend nowadays, especially with social media, making it a fresh delivery system, I suppose, for the brand to put it in marketing terms, and that's something everyone's striving for. But the Penguins were a little bit ahead of that curve for a while, and they had their own. Penn's TV was pretty revolutionary when they started it. Now every team has their own video channel online. So that's just one of many areas in which they were innovative and gutsy, really, to go away from some of the traditional ways of promoting the team. So it is a perfect storm with the Penguins. And you know how it goes, Brian, when you get the ball rolling downhill, it just continues to go. And when you win, like the Penguins have now 2 Stanley Cups in the past 7 years, it's tough to foresee that turning around and going in a negative direction anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Matt, I know you have another call. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, you got it, dude. Anytime.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Up next, I am going to save the entire city of Pittsburgh single-handedly by giving you a weird news story. That's right, 3 weird stories to keep the Mon Monster at bay. The Mon Monster, a villainous creature terrorizing the citizens of Pittsburgh. It comes from the Mon. We're going to put it back in its place next with first weird news story of the week. 3 weird stories to keep them on Monster Bay, where I single-handedly saved the city of Pittsburgh from total destruction, next here on the River's Edge.
Hi, I'm Mike Storer, host of the Awesome Cast, which you can hear right here on River's Edge Radio. We're talking tech, getting geeky every week with people from Pittsburgh in the industry. Go check us out, awesomecast.net, or listen to us right here on River's Edge Radio, Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. after Funny Money.
A central Pennsylvania man was charged on a Thursday after police discovered something very, very interesting. The guy was a stoner, and stoners get arrested all the time, and that's a point for debate, the legalization debate. But this time he went a little extreme. He went a little overboard, and we have Katie Dudas coming on Friday, and maybe I should have saved this for her, being that she is the zombie wrangler at Scarehouse Pittsburgh. But this man was craving brains. The man used... This is crazy. Okay, this man stole a corpse, basically. He's charged. His name is... allegedly. His name is Joshua Lee Long. He's 26 years old, and he's been charged with abuse of a corpse and conspiracy. And basically what he did is he used the ingredient that they use to embalm a brain to keep it from falling apart. He took that ingredient and he used it to get high. He used it with his weed, and now he is looking at jail time. So he's kind of crazy. If you look at this guy, I don't know, he's got like, he looks very typical. Crazy. Very innovative. I will say that. The gentleman is very, very innovative. Up next, we're gonna talk about my story with John Held, he's the sheriff over in Westmoreland County. It's an interesting story about how he got into politics, at least on a sheriff's level, and really, it's an interesting tale. And I think it's pertinent to what we are discussing with the email situation. And on top of that, we have Debbie. We're going to hold her accountable, DNC chair. We're going to hold her accountable to the virtues of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's up next here on the River's Edge.
Hi, I'm Tom, and I know money.
And I'm Matt, and I know funny.
Catch us Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. Real financial information
For the regular guy.
right here at riversedgepgh.com.
Your voice for local music.
I was on the Double D show yesterday. That podcast will be available today. I'll make sure to post that at River's Edge, on the River's Edge Facebook page and Twitter page. Thanks to Todd for having me on. And the show was out at the Rose Bar and Grill. And it was crazy. There were like 8 people in studio. It was at the bar. It was a really good time. And, I was there surrounded by people back and forth, a lot of people to bounce off. And now I'm here all alone. All by myself. Someone come keep me company. You know what, though? Sometimes it's nice to just veg out, have the place to yourself, and not have to worry too much about coordinating all of that. I know they had a model who kind of bailed on them at the last minute, but they made it work. Good people, professionals there. Really great time. Great show. Check that out at idiotnation.net. Again, I'm going to post the link for you at the River's Edge Facebook page. Kudos to the Monroeville Police, by the way. They're having a meeting at the community park. They're gathering with the residents of Monroeville, and they are working to kind of come together and basically sort out their differences and see how they can move together as a community and be wholesome. And I think that's great. You look at all of this division, and anytime somebody is pro-police, they're anti-black, or if they're pro-black, they're anti-police, and why can't we just be pro-people? And then you've got the All Lives Matter people who claim to be all pro-people, but really it's just a way to derail Black Lives Matter, and it's just this whole convoluted thing. But kudos to the Monroeville police. I just think that's great. That's the kind of thing that we need more of, and it's driven by the police, which is great, because that's showing a leadership role in addressing this problem and trying to come together. And I was listening to Chris Moore on KDKA the other night, this past weekend, and somebody was on his show literally advocating, or not advocating, but rationalizing the slaughter of police officers. And he was justifying it by comparing statistics to how many innocent black people were murdered, in his opinion, in a lot of these cases you can't dispute, by police officers. And how does one wrong solve another wrong? And Chris asked him about that. He said, is it really about the raw numbers? And I just found the comment very disturbing, and I'll be honest, it's not the first time I've heard it. You can't justify killing one person just because other people have died. I mean, that's just like saying it's okay to just go robbing people because, like say if I was robbed by, I don't know, we were all robbed by a politician at some point. Does that mean we can go back and, pound on the door to the state capitol in Harrisburg and demand money and demand cash, or sneak in like a ninja and pull some shit out of there? No, that's ridiculous. Of course you'd be arrested for that, because one wrong does not make another wrong okay. Debbie Weiserman Schultz, she's crazy. It reminds me, and we're gonna hold her accountable to the values of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the values of virtue, the values of liberty, and the values of independence. But I want to talk first about a personal situation that reminds me of this email. I don't want to call it a crisis because it's kind of interesting to watch. I mean, it is a crisis in the sense that democracy was possibly thwarted by top party elites, big shots, party bosses, did whatever they could to derail Bernie Sanders and make sure that their girl, Hillary Clinton, got in. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, obviously part of that mix, allegedly. But there was a situation out in Westmoreland County, and it's also goes on statewide as well. But in Westmoreland County, the Republican Party, the local Republican Party, which I used to be a part of, and I used to be the executive director of, and for a very, very short time, only weeks, just because it wasn't for me. But they claim not to endorse a candidate. That's what they claim. They don't endorse candidates. No, they do not endorse candidates, not at all. That's what they claim. The reality is that they very much do endorse candidates, and they do it all the time. They just don't publicly do it. So what they do, and the way that they go about things, is they like to use bullying and intimidation to try to get their guy. And my friend John Held, who's the sheriff out there, he ran for office, and he ran for sheriff, actually, and he won. But the party was against him the entire time, and I just remember being in that party. I would tell people I'm for John Held, and they wanted a gentleman named Wayne McGrew, who is probably an outstanding guy, but that's who they pushed for. And the rumor was that he wanted to become a judge, and he was using sheriff to try to catapult himself into a judge's position. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about him. A lot of people do that. But, John Held wanted to be a sheriff, and I kind of liked what he had to say, so I was behind him. And basically what the party did was they would tell me, oh, you're stupid to vote for John Held. How can you do that? Yada, yada, yada. Go on and on and on and on. And they claimed not to endorse, but they did this sense of bullying. And at the very end, John ended up winning. But it was all kind of behind the scenes, and there was nothing public. It was kind of shady, and they really, really put the pressure on anybody who was against John Held. But he won, and he's won re-election, and he is still the sheriff out in Westmoreland County. So it can be done. You can thwart the big party bosses, but it's very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. And in this state, in this Commonwealth, it's extremely difficult. The Republican Party, I don't know as much about the Democratic side because I was not involved at any level in the Democratic Party. But, however, I was originally registered as a Democrat. Right now I'm still a Republican by name, but really, I mean, I don't really associate myself with the Republican Party. I would like to associate myself with the Libertarian Party, and Gary Johnson, I was kind of excited that he was getting some popularity, but then I found out that he was in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership would basically allow trade deals to override U.S. law and override the Constitution, and it's definitely something that is very dangerous to our liberty. And I know people are in this, they're having this anti-nationalist kick, and I get it. I'm not necessarily saying that United States is number one and we're the best and woo, USA, USA, USA. Nothing like that. No, what I am saying is I can control my government at a local level. I have some control over my government. If there's something I don't like in the federal government, I can push, I can advocate for my legislatures to make a difference, make a change. I can take part in a presidential election. I have at least a little bit of control over the government here in the United States. You put in something like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and that is gone. Done. Kaput. That is out the window. I can't vote for Gary Johnson if he supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership. To me, that puts him below Trump on the list, which is crazy because everything else he says is great. But I cannot get past the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It is probably one of the greatest, one of the biggest threats to our freedom and liberty here in the United States. And we can only vote for a candidate who doesn't support it. So I mean, I don't know. I don't really care for Trump. I don't care if I hate Clinton. I think she embodies everything that is wrong in politics. The email scandal, which how do you get involved in so many email scandals? Hillary Clinton is now at the center of multiple email scandals. We got to get our friends from Sidekick Media. They help build businesses. You can check them out. Help them with their social media and things like that. We need to get them to educate her, teach a class to people in Washington and in Harrisburg on how to use a goddamn email. I know you're part of that baby bloomer generation, but my God, it's an email. Learn to use your freaking email. Please. So anyways, yeah, I can't vote for Gary Johnson at all at this point. I don't know. I might just write somebody in. It's getting to that point. I don't want to vote for the Green Party candidate. They're a little too far to the left for me. I don't know. I don't know what to do. But it's getting interesting in Philadelphia. The crowds are amassing. People are protesting. People are pissed. And I don't blame them. And people think that they're going to rally behind Hillary Clinton, these Bernie supporters. I think with the recent developments with WikiLeaks releasing these emails, I think those chances are all about nil at this point. Would you support her if you knew that your candidate, the candidate that you fought for, was completely thwarted by party bosses and super elites? I would not. Personally. I know. I would not. So it's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, the home of the email scandal. We were involved in email scandals before it was cool. But being that it's in Pennsylvania and being that Debbie Wasserman Schultz will be resigning after the convention in Philadelphia, we're going to hold her up against the merciless scrutiny of the values of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Let's cue the Pennsylvania state song, the official state song of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania being one of the founding states in the United States of America and an early colony, we live by a strong standard of morals and values. That's right, in the Commonwealth, the highest standard of values here in Pennsylvania. Uncompromising, cannot be squelched. A standard so high that the rest of the nation could only dream to stand up to look up to live up to. We are going to see if Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairman of the DNC, holds the values and standards that we hold so deeply here in the Commonwealth. Independence. Well, Debbie is bailed out. She's given up. She doesn't want to be the DNC chair anymore. She's upset because of her email scandal and she can't deal with it, so she is giving up. So I would say that she is very, very dependent on other party bosses who have pushed her out. So no, I would say, Debbie, you are not a very independent thinker. Liberty, oh boy, liberty. Well, the email scandal has pretty much completely thwarted democracy for Democrats. That's right, your vote literally didn't count because the Democrats were doing whatever they could to make sure that your vote was marginalized, to make sure, if you're a Bernie supporter, to make sure that your vote didn't count, that Hillary had the edge, and that they were actually looking to slander his faith as well. So when it comes to liberty and respecting people's freedom and free choice, I would say hell no. Hell no. How could you say she stands up for liberty at any level? What are you, drunk? You're drunk, aren't you? Virtue, morals, morality. If this is true, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has no morals. Are you kidding me? Absolutely no morals. How could you profess to be somebody of moral stature when you allow something like this to happen under your leadership? No, she does not hold the values of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, not at all. She is, in many ways, if this is true, the antithesis of our values. I think it's funny that our values are independence, liberty, and virtue. We're a slave to the federal government here in the Commonwealth. Liberty, oh God. Look at our state house. If there was one government body that might rival Washington, D.C. at a level of corruption, it's definitely the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And virtue, values, I mean, my God, the Supreme Court there exchanging pornographic emails. The Attorney General who's prosecuting them was under charges for tampering a grand jury. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's so backwards. It is so backwards. So backwards, this Commonwealth. So maybe Debbie Schultz, maybe she is a prime example of what Pennsylvania is all about. Maybe she does. Maybe if we rewrote our values, she would in every way hold up to those values. I did not know that we had an official state song until I was looking to prepare this segment, and there actually are lyrics. I'm going to play that for you because I bet you've never heard of it either. Have you ever heard of the state song? We have a state song here in Pennsylvania. We just played the lyric version for that bit, but there's actually we played a non-lyrical version, but there's actually a lyrical version. Let me play that for you. pretty good, right? I like it. This is pretty cool. That is the Pennsylvania State song. You could, I don't know where you can hear it. I never hear it at any events. I never hear it played at the when the governor's speaking, and I never heard it when I worked for the State House. And I used to watch State House meetings, so I would know what was going on. But no, nothing. There was never played. I don't know why. It's a cool song. I like it. Don't forget this Friday. This Friday, you can catch me at 21st Coffee. I'll be with Katie Dudas of Scarehouse Pittsburgh. She is the Zombie Wrangler. She's also of Awesome Cast, which you can hear Thursday mornings here at riversedgepgh.com, powered by NGL WebTech. So check me out there. It's going to be good times. It's going to be some coffee and some conversation. And their coffee at 21st Coffee is outstanding, and they make it fresh. They brew it for you as you request it. So yeah, it takes 5 minutes to get your coffee, but you're getting a fresh cup every time. And I'm all about freshness. I'm all about flavor. So definitely come out, join us this Friday, 10 a.m., live 10 to 11 at 21st Coffee. And then also don't forget tomorrow we've got Sorg. Tomorrow we've got Mike Sasson. Sorg is on Thursday. Mike Sasson tomorrow, 10 a.m., live here at riversedgepgh.com. That's all for me. I am out of here. I just woke up. I literally had to take a nap before I came in order to even do the show. So I'm going back to bed. That's why I've got this bedhead thing going on. But that's it. I'm out. See you later, peeps.